like to call the City of Mount Vernon City Council meeting for Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025 to order. The time is now 7:03 p.m. Would you please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Beaton? Here. Councilmember Broxton?
Here.
Councilmember Perez?
Here.
Councilmember Hudson?
Here.
Councilmember Molinar?
Here.
Councilmember Tesoro?
Here.
Councilmember Vanderstoop?
Here. Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda is approval of tonight's agenda. Are there any proposed changes, council? Or a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Second.
Motion by Richard, second by Gary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Item 3 is community comments. If you are here this evening to address council, please come on up to the podium and state your name and city of residence and limit your comments to about 3 minutes. Anyone here tonight for community comments? All right. Seeing none, we will move on to Item 4. Tonight's consent agenda includes meeting minutes, payroll checks, wire transfers, claims, and an agreement. Council, would you like to move for adoption?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Richard, second by Melissa. Any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. We will move on to committee reports. The first one is for the Finance and Parks and Enrichment Committee, which met tonight at 6 p.m. And Councilmember Molinar is the chair of that committee and has a report for us. Gary.
Yeah, we opened the meeting tonight at 6 o'clock after the approval of the March minutes. We had Jennifer Berner, our Parks and Enrichment director. Hello. She gave some highlights. One of them was Recreation received a $60,000 youth mentoring grant from the National Recreation and Parks Association. Our parks right now is down one full-time position, and we're not sure if that will be filled. Next, Sean talked about some of our park projects, especially dealing with our baseball fields. Sherman Anderson got pretty much a great workover. They redid some of the dugouts, the scoreboard, the netting. If you haven't been up there to a game, it looks absolutely fabulous. There was also work done on Bakerview Park View, and we've had replaced and worn out playground equipment done at Edgewater, Hillcrest, Bakerview, and Division Street and 25th Street Parks. That included 200 cubic yards of engineered wood fiber in all of our playgrounds, and a new concrete border at Edgewater Park. Little Mountain Park will be replacing the vault toilet at the summit of the mountain, which will be obviously a very good thing. And also Bonnie Ray Park is installing a new gravel parking lot later this spring in preparation for a community garden that will be there somewhere in summer or early fall. Brooke then also gave us an update on the nature camps. 7 weeks of theme camps take place at Hillcrest and Little Mountain Parks. Some of them are Explore the Outdoors, and that's 4 free summer programs. And then also Bonnie Ray Park program will begin at the location this summer. There will be programs for adults and youth and school groups. Then we had Doug Valesky, our finance director, talk about city. He gave us a city debt update. The city currently has $39.4 million in general obligation debt, which means we are using 26.4% of the remaining utility or of the total debt that the city could legally obtain. The city also has $7.9 million remaining on a utility debt for the wastewater treatment plant, and this will be paid off in full in 2029. We had a little discussion on a proactive plan for our 2026 budget. Right now, I was looking at a potential $5 to $6 million deficit. So the city is looking at different ways to help balance this budget. in the fall. The mayor's already implemented a hiring freeze and delays on some of the vacant positions that are coming up. Other things we're looking at are also including non-rep COLAs, adjusting work schedules, and reevaluating staffing levels, as well as looking for new revenue opportunities. And we close the meeting at 6:59.
Thanks, Gary. Next up, last week, April 16th, council had a Development Services Committee here at Council Chambers, and Councilmember Melissa Beaton chairs that committee and has a report for us tonight. Melissa.
Thank you, Mayor. First up, we heard that the Development Services Department has 3 open positions. There's a planning examiner / building inspector position, an engineering tech, and then a front counter permit tech, and also a part-time planner. So they're operating a few less staff, but they're still doing fantastic work out of there. Council received an update on a developing partnership with Welcome Home Skagit that's aimed at enhancing support for individuals in their vocation program. The key highlights included they received a grant from Skagit County to help fund the initiative. The program includes 5 pallet shelters offering temporary housing, and the project site will be held on First United Methodist Church. So under city code, temporary homeless encampments are allowed for up to 120 days at any given location annually. However, state law provides for broader permissions for religious institutions, allowing greater flexibility. So to move forward, the site must meet certain established criteria, including appropriate sizing and spacing, access to heat and electricity, and some landscaping considerations. There will be a public gathering next Wednesday, April 30th, where more details will be shared. Following the event, the city intends to enter into a memorandum of understanding with a renewable 1-year lease to formally approve and launch the project. Next up, Dike District 17, 3, and 1 were invited to share any current projects or updates regarding the dikes in our city. Dike District 17 responded, indicating that there are no new updates beyond what has already been previously shared. There was no response received from Dike District 3, and it appears there may have been a miscommunication with Dike District 1 as no one showed up. So I think we're checking back with them on that. Council received an update related to the potential Blackburn Road extension to South Waugh in the Eaglemont area and how trip generation plays into evaluating whether that project is even feasible. Some key points include there was in 1992 there was an environmental impact statement that set a threshold of 716 p.m. peak trip hours. So that's cars going back and forth between a certain time. As the point where a review of roadway infrastructure improvements, like an extension, might be triggered. In 2014, TSI, Transportation Solutions, Inc., revisited the traffic concurrency, and at that time, the analysis indicated there were only 22.59 peak hour trips remaining before hitting the 716 trip threshold. So the city is nearing that trigger point. The current status, well, right now, it's just in the feasibility exploration phase, meaning that we're still evaluating extending it from a technical, environmental, and funding standpoint. So stay tuned there. As part of the comp plan process, the Citizen Advisory Committee applicants have been reviewed and for both land use and climate planning. And the city received strong interest in a high-quality pool of applicants. The appointee recommendations actually are scheduled to go before us tonight, later on. Staff has encountered, however, challenges securing a longer-term commitment from prospective members on the Climate Planning Committee. Notably, this committee is not a formal requirement, so as an alternative, staff may pursue a targeted outreach to key agencies and stakeholders to get their feedback. Next up, staff reviewed the Planning Commission's work plan for the remainder of the year with a focus on implementing the C2 goals and policy updates. That's our commercial 2 zoning. The discussion centered on identifying key areas, including community hubs, neighborhoods, and local businesses like bodegas, where increased housing density and expanded services could be supported. There are some areas being evaluated for potential building heights of up to 7 to 8 stories in that zone. Key considerations to consider there is the city is preparing for an estimated 10,000 new residents over the next 20 years. There is a big public safety impact to that. The proposed building heights exceed the current reach of our ladder truck, which goes 5 stories. Chief Harris noted that any development beyond this height would necessitate the acquisition of new firefighting apparatus and potentially affect the city's fire rating. For those of you that don't know, a fire engine is probably running around $2 million at the moment and goes up every day. There was a preliminary discussion on the potential need to update the city's lot coverage and setback requirements, particularly in the context of smaller lots in the downtown area. Current code requires a 20-foot setback on each street facing side. And so on a corner, that's 2. The impact is it significantly reduces the buildable area on already small parcels, particularly in the downtown area. In many cases, it limits the feasible development and deters reinvestment. So under current zoning and setback requirements, many existing structures in downtown Mount Vernon could not be rebuilt to their existing footprint if they were destroyed by a fire. So this poses long-term equity, resilience, and urban fabric concerns. Next up, we are considering evaluating, if I could just say that word, flexible setback alternatives for corner lots, particularly in this zone. Excuse me. Then on the good of the order, the city council, mayor, and the county commissioners will hold a joint meeting to hear a short overview and participate in a broad discussion on senior services in our city. The focus will be on identifying current needs, service gaps, and exploring potential partnerships to better serve our aging population. There won't be public comment taken during this meeting, but the public is invited and encouraged to attend. And with that, we adjourned at 6:43.
All right, thanks, Melissa. Item 5B on the agenda is council member comments. Any council member comments tonight? Yes, Councilmember Vandersloot.
Just a really quick one. If you have Cascade natural gas in the city, and you have poor insulation, there's a good chance that you qualify for a program where you just pay the sales tax, to have a company come in and put in insulation. I had about $2,500 worth of insulation put in. It cost me about $215. So if you're interested, I don't have a business card and I wasn't sure about the legality of promoting a company. So you're more than welcome to email me directly. Thank you.
You're not getting any kickback that you need to.
I tried to arrange it, and he was not interested.
He's joking. All right, any other council member comments? Will council members comment and headlines get made? Yes, Councilmember Brucksmith.
I just wanted to invite the viewing public to come join us for the 70th annual Kiwanis Salmon Barbecue. We host that during April Tulip Festival, of course. There are 2 weekends left where we'll be serving barbecue salmon dinner with all the fixings Friday, Saturday, and Sunday this weekend and the next weekend, which does run into May. And it's 11 to 7 every day. So all the benefits go back into the community. They help Mount Vernon Parks and provide scholarships for youth. So there's a lot of people there getting great food prepared. We just need more and more customers. So bring your neighbors, bring your friends, one and all, 11 to 7, Friday to Sunday.
It's good food. All right, yeah, Councilmember Beaton.
Yep. So I just want to let everybody know, for those of you that haven't noticed, the ground is definitely moving on the corner of Division and 18th. That is going to be a behavioral health and treatment center, 24-hour, 7 service. It's slated for 2 single stories of 16 beds each. And so that's what's going on there. And then I just wanted to take a personal moment to say, to address the budget. I know that the mayor and Doug are having discussions with every department and every staff member. I understand the anxiety and the uncertainty of the potential loss of a position and of a job. Please know that we're doing everything possible to maintain every position in this city and at the staffing levels that we have. I know that Peter's not sleeping much, and Doug, he's pretty much all gray at this point. So anyway, just, we're working hard.
Thanks. Thanks, Melissa. Any other comments from council? All right. We are going to jump into the mayor's report. First slide of the mayor's report. Why is this man smiling? There he is. Look at, oh, he's not here. Of course he's not here. He's retiring. After serving 35 years in the fire service, Mount Vernon Fire Chief Brian Bryce is retiring at the end of this month. Chief Bryce has held a number of leadership roles in his career, including serving as the fire chief in Oxnard, California, and as a division chief with the Orange County Fire Authority before coming to Mount Vernon in 2016, where he led the department's transition to a fire-based EMS system and served as a unified commander during the COVID-19 pandemic. Chief Bryce's contributions to our city have been invaluable. His dedication, his expertise, and his leadership will leave a lasting impact on our city. So thank you to Chief Bryce. We wish you the best in your retirement and in your future endeavors. And we will move on then to Mayor's Coffee. I hope everyone can make it this Friday, 2 more days. April 25th at 9:30 a.m. We're going to be downtown Mount Vernon at the Perry and Carlson Gallery. Christian and Trina are hosting us in this beautiful space that they've created downtown. So please come on down with your questions, your concerns, and also please your ideas. And we will talk, as always, about all things city related. Again, that's this Friday, April 25th at 9:30 a.m. And then come celebrate Earth Day this Saturday, April 26th at Edgewater Park from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Bring family down Saturday morning for live animal presentations featuring reptiles and raptors. I understand we're also going to have an ivy pulling contest, which I have not experienced before, but apparently the longest ivy vine pulled wins a prize. So come help us get the ivy out of Edgewater Park. More info on the city website for that one. And finally, we have a celebration coming up downtown for the second year in a row on Sunday, May 4th at 5 p.m. The Mount Vernon Mariachi Club, the Mount Vernon Downtown Association, the Lincoln Theater, and Latinos in Action bring you the Mount Vernon Cinco de Mayo Parade. They've got mariachis, folklorico dancers, they've got dancing horses. I've seen these, they're kind of amazing. It's going to be an absolute blast. Right in the heart of downtown Mount Vernon. So don't miss this one. This is Sunday, May 4th at 5 p.m. And that is your mayor's report for April 23rd, 2025. Thank you, Steve. We're going to move on to new business. Item A is the presentation from Skagit Transit, and Special Projects Manager Steve Sexton is going to introduce this item. Steve.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. So we have an online guest this evening to present Skagit Transit's long-range transit plan. And with us, we have Sam Zimbabwe online, and he is a transportation planner at Kimley Horn. They're the consultants group assisting Skagit Transit in the formation of the long-range transit plan. And Sam, I was told that you can share your screen. I'm hoping that is true, and I'll turn it over to you.
All right, I can. Hold on, wait. No, not that. Oops. I'm going to share the presentation, but hang on one sec. It's great to be with you. Also in the audience tonight is Malaya Kuzminski, who's just joined Skagit Transit as the Planning and Outreach Manager. So she's still getting up to speed on everything, but she's there if there are any questions that I can't answer tonight. All right, now we should be seeing the right presentation. I will run through. If folks have questions, I won't really be able to see you as I go, so please just feel free to interrupt me. And thanks for having us here. It was great to listen through all the things that are going on in the city and how that aligns with all of the work that Skagit Transit has done over the last year to develop this long-range transit plan. So I'll talk through a little bit of existing conditions and what we heard through the process, and then some of the system-wide recommendations all across the county, and then the implementation timeline, and then there might be some route by route questions that folks have as well. When we look across all of the service that Skagit Transit is providing, there's excellent coverage. It covers where people want to go right now, some really important destinations, service that really is centered on Skagit Station right there in downtown Mount Vernon. We see priority populations across the county are served. There's access to jobs and services, and then beyond Skagit Station and all of the service that's there, there's a couple other really important rider and operator facilities like the Chuckanut Park and Ride, March Point Park and Ride, Cedro Woolley, some other really important places that are places where people transfer from one bus to another. Some of the challenges, we see there's pretty infrequent services on some routes. Some routes coming as often as every 30 minutes, but some not coming, coming every hour, and then some even less than that. There's some places where there's circuitous service, and people have to go out of their way to get to where they're trying to go. And then there's some limits on the evening and weekend service. When we look at existing conditions, on the left is daily ridership, so how many people are riding each day. And you can see that there's more people riding on weekdays, about twice as many people riding on weekdays as on Saturdays, and then twice again as many, or a little bit more, as on Sundays. There's a lot less service being offered on Sundays as well, but that's one of the things we heard about from customers and people who could be customers is the challenges of riding at some of those times. We also see more people riding in the middle of the day, so 10 to 4 p.m. than in the peak time. So these numbers are the annual riders all over the course of a year, where usually you think of people riding transit to get to and from work, morning and afternoon peak times. In Skagit County, on Skagit Transit service right now, more people are riding in the midday, more people are going to things like shopping, health appointments, services, things like that, than riding sort of a traditional commute time of day. We did a couple of rounds of outreach, both in the spring of last year and the fall. Got a lot of feedback, and through a lot of different means, we came out to farmers markets, did open houses. We had some online ways people could provide feedback. We got 600 different themes that we recorded of different pieces of feedback that people had. What we heard most frequently was increased frequencies, having the bus come more often, increased span of service, especially having buses operate longer into the evenings, and then providing some of those connections in the region, both within Skagit County, and then also people are trying to make trips into Snohomish County, up to Whatcom County, even as far as King County on transit. So the LRTP is a roadmap for investments, really trying to guide the next 5 to 10 years of investments in an environment that's resource constrained. Heard about the budget challenges of the city. The same is true for public agencies across the state. Skagit Transit, no exception, where we're operating really in a resource constrained environment right now. So we've looked at places to make short-term refinements that then can layer in more service as there is investment in fleet and facilities and the ability to deliver that service. And this is sort of a point in time. So this is looking out 5 to 10 years, but also trying to, it's hard to predict the future. Your communities continue to grow and change. And so there'll be need for ongoing evaluation and engagement over the course of that time. So this is looking 5 to 10 years, but it won't be the last time to provide feedback and input. Our long-term service recommendations, as I said, they're really trying to change some routes that streamline and simplify so that in the future, more service can be layered on, and there can be those increases in frequency and extension of hours, and trying to make those in some incremental ways. So as more service is available, layering in additional resources. What we see right now, there's some places where there's some duplicative service. So we have the 40X going from Skagit Station to March Point Park and Ride. There's also the 513 going from Chuckanut Park and Ride to March Point. the 40X is drawing a lot more riders than the 513, but they're both at about an hour frequency. They're both sort of running this somewhat the same origin and destination. So there's some ways to streamline some of the service that we're seeing out there now. We also see some places where it's a little bit inconvenient to get between cities. So if you are in Cedar-Woolley and trying to get to downtown Mount Vernon, or vice versa, right now there's the 70X, which comes every 3 hours. Not the easiest to plan your trips around. That goes express to Cedar-Woolley. The 301 goes to Chuckanut Park and Ride. 305 comes to Skagit Valley College, which is a really important route. You could make a connection from there to Skagit Station, but there's no one seat way to get between, other than the 70X, which is at that 3 hour frequency. So we're looking at ways to make some of those more frequent and reliable too. And then we have some places where there's some indirect local service. So this is a map of Mount Vernon and Burlington, really the core of the system right now. You see there are routes like the 202, that orange route, the 205, the dark blue, and the 208 going right up and down Riverside and Burlington Boulevard that are operating at every 30 minutes. They're operating direct service. They're at a frequency that people can rely on them. And those are some of the highest ridership routes in the whole system. And then you have others where they're a bit less direct, they're a bit less frequent, and they are not drawing the same kind of ridership overall. So there's some places to tweak some of the service. This is a map system-wide of the whole system, looking at what the recommended service network is, and I'll talk through a little bit sort of how we get to some of those ideas and sort of what that means in a second. But just really quickly here, sort of really trying to streamline some of those connections between cities. And then the introduction of something I'll talk briefly about, the on-demand, potential on-demand service zone in Anacortes, and what that means, how that could be thought of as something to explore elsewhere in the county as well. There are some consolidated and discontinued routes. There are some routes that are seeing some new service, including one in Mount Vernon that consolidates some existing services, some that are seeing some more significant change, and then some that are discontinued. Wherever it says discontinued, those are getting consolidated into other routes, and I can walk through that as well. I mentioned on-demand transit really briefly. This is something that is intended to fill some of the gaps between what a traditional fixed route service, fixed route transit, where a bus is traveling a route, going to stops on a regular basis, and paratransit, which is providing flexible rides within 3/4 of a mile of fixed route service. But you have to qualify for that service and you have to reserve in advance. On demand is providing point-to-point service, so not at fixed stops, but within a fixed area. And you can request a ride, but on a more immediate basis. And generally, these have been tried in cities across the country now and with transit agencies. So getting some really good lessons learned and experience. Those work best when people have about between 15 and 30 minutes to be able to request a ride either by app or by a phone call, and then have a transit vehicle arrive. So I can talk a little bit more about where we've thought about that being a pilot opportunity in Anacortes, but we explored 5 potential areas across the county, really thinking that Anacortes could be the best of those. But there's some other locations, including Mount Vernon, where if this is successful, it could be another place to try. And there's some different ways to deliver that service, which would still be dependent on funding, but could be an opportunity for consideration down the line. In the long range plan, which is out for public comment right now, there are some other details around passenger and operator facilities, how to think about bus stops and access to transit, and then what Skagit Transit will need to do around fleet replacement and expansion, and then how to continue to work with cities as partners to integrate transit into your long range planning some of your short-term transportation investments as well. From a implementation timeline perspective, the short range work that I talked about is really possible with the existing resources. So within the existing service hours, within the existing peak vehicles that are out in service right now, and then as more resources might become available, both in terms of vehicles and the ability to operate them, there can be additional resources layered in that would improve frequency, expand the span of service, but wouldn't change any of the routes that I talked about. And then if and when that on-demand service can start, then there's opportunities to revisit that and think about how it might be expanded or tweaked as that service is provided. And then the long range, same thing. So really thinking about how to layer in additional buses, additional hours of operation. I'll talk really briefly about in a bit more detail about the route recommendations in Mount Vernon, and then open it up for questions. And I can talk about this for a long time, and I know a lot of people get bored about it. So I will pause, take questions, go wherever folks would like to take the discussion. So looking really at the center of the county along the I-5 corridor, this is where the bulk of the ridership is right now, and showed this future map here, and the map on the left is the existing. I also will show one other map after this that shows how an extension of service from Cedar-Woolley would come down and connect in as well. So on the left, there are a number of routes, some of which are a little bit circuitous, and some of them are one-way loops, like the 206 and the 204. We think there's some ways to really streamline some of that. The map on the right looks a little bit like we're missing some places. A lot of that is picked up by additional service on the route 305 coming all the way into Skagit Station. So let me just actually really quickly show you that as well. So that 305 that I mentioned would come getting extended from Cedar-Woolley past Skagit Valley College and connect a lot of those communities on the a little bit farther east along Division by the hospital and come into Skagit Station. I went through a lot pretty quickly. Would love to pause and take any questions that folks have, and can get into any details that you would like to hear.
Thanks, Sam. City County questions for Sam?
I got one. I have a few people that asked me, do you guys have those things that change the lights when you come up to the light? Octagon? Is that what it is? Yeah. Or is that just emergency vehicles?
Is Skagit Transit changing lights, Sam?
I don't believe that Skagit Transit is changing any lights right now. That's a good question.
It's a good rumor too. I don't.
Yeah.
It's not true.
Yeah. Don't follow too closely behind the bus. I don't believe that the that Skagit Transit is doing that right now. That is a somewhat complicated topic, especially for a transit agency that's operating in multiple cities with lots of different potential types of signal controllers, because you have to sort of coordinate among the technology on the bus and the technology in each city.
So the answer is I just follow the bus around and get there faster. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
But thank you for asking. But
Anyone else?
yeah, Councilmember Brown.
So it'd be great to provide the PowerPoint because it's really consolidated. It gives us a real good picture of what's going on. I mean, at first glance to me is looks like Mount Vernon's losing quite a bit of service in the recommended approaches. So I'd like to take a harder look at that. And I do appreciate that there's another service coming through at 30 something, you said.
305. Yeah. Yep. And we can definitely provide that. One thing that is a little bit tough to communicate in this map is that some of these routes right now are providing sort of a one-way loop. So this, the 204, or the 204 and the 206, these ones that cover a lot of ground, are this light brown and the light blue here, and this is in Burlington, but the 101, they're providing a one-way service on about an hourly frequency. So if you are trying to go in the direction of travel, it can be pretty good. But if you're trying to go the opposite direction, it can be not very convenient because you're waiting an hour to then go all the way around the loop to get back. So on the right, and this one is missing the extension of that 305, which would come over and along Division and then back into Skagit Station. So getting a lot of the area that's covered by the brown. Those are all serving providing two-way service. So apologize if the map doesn't quite show the full coverage here because we were dividing it by different parts of the county, but definitely can provide this PowerPoint maybe slightly updated to make sure that we show you all those pieces.
Sam, just to fully understand that, would there 2 buses on one route, or does it the same bus goes down and then back up?
That really depends on how long that route is. So some of these routes would be served by one bus, going to one end and then back the other direction. Some of them are long enough that there's two buses operating at the same time, but they all would have 2 directional service on the same street. So here on like on LaVenture on the right here, that green bus is going back and forth on the same street. Whereas on the left in the 204 is making like a long loop all the way around on this. And so if you're trying to go back the other way, you have to wait and then go all the way back around the loop to get back to where you're going, if that makes sense.
It's helpful. It does appear that people will be walking further to get to fewer routes. But I guess that's why you're out giving us notice, so we can take account.
Yep.
I had a general question for you. The question I hear, Gary, is why do they run such big buses with very few people on them? Can they run smaller buses? What's your response to that?
Sure. So Skagit Transit has a couple different sizes of buses. Smaller buses are not always easier to procure, and then because they have to be accessible. It's the buses they're running a couple different sizes of buses that talked about. The on-demand transit service is one way that agencies are trying to look at routes when a fixed route bus, when a large regular transit bus is not providing, not getting as many riders. Sometimes that on-demand service can be a way to serve those riders in a more effective way, because those are using smaller vehicles, usually vans or minibuses. They're accessible for people with disabilities. They're not operating on that same fixed route. So it does mean that somebody has to request a ride and have the ability to request a ride. That could be done through an app or by a phone call, but does require that part of it. But that service is using smaller vehicles and sort of providing more coverage over a bit of an area. Because of the amount of existing and future service in Mount Vernon, we thought that the place to pilot that service would be in Anacortes, where you have a few more destinations that are spread farther apart. But if that's successful, then definitely I think some of the other cities and towns that have a bit more density in them would be appropriate for that type of service in the future.
Thank you.
Okay. Sam, thank you for being with us today.
Absolutely, thank you. And I'll make sure that we share this presentation with you all. And then the comment period is open until May 14th. And information is available on Skagit Transit's website at skagit-transit.org.
Okay. Sam, Malia, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, we'll move on to item B. It is an indigent defense agreement, and Steve Sexton has this item as well. Steve.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an contract for indigent defense services for appellate attorneys. The cities of Mount Vernon and Burlington face a shortage of attorneys able to handle appellate conflict cases for our indigent defendants. These cases, while they don't happen very often, pretty infrequent. They do demand significant time and expertise. Due to the limited pool of qualified counsel and the complexity involved, the proposed hourly rate, this one is $250 an hour, where our normal conflict attorneys are $100 an hour, and it exceeds our standard rate. So I did, that's why I did put this on an action item rather than the consent agenda to present that. I did do some in-depth research on this, and the Google told me that in Washington State, appellate attorneys typically charge between $159 and $432 an hour with an average of $322. So that kind of puts it in perspective as why we're at $250 with this. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Cool. So you know that's accurate information. Questions for Steve, council? Motions.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract for indigent defense.
Second.
Motion by Melissa, second by Mary. Any discussion on this one? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion passes. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Item C is a street closure request, and Parks Director Jennifer Berner will present this one. Hi, Jennifer.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So this evening, I am asking for a street closure for our Skagit Valley YMCA. They are planning a grand opening for their block party celebration for their Oasis Teen Center, which we support. And I think it's quite timely, and it'll be really fun to be out there and see this open up in our community again. They're looking at Thursday, July 17th from 3 to 7. They're asking for the closure for North 5th Street from Warren Street to East Division Street. And the closure would be from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. The actual event is from 3 to 7. So with that, if you have any questions, staff is recommending the approval of this street closure.
All right, questions for Jennifer?
Sounds great. I'd move to approve the street closure.
Second.
Motion by Gary and a second by Richard. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thanks, Jennifer. Item D is for project acceptance. Public Works Director Chris Phillips is going to introduce this item. Hello.
Good evening,
Mr.
council and mayor. I know many of you have been wondering, where has Waldo been? Well, Waldo's back, healthy, and I got a good, clean bill of health, so I'll be here for at least the next 5 years unless the mayor has other ideas to provide service to you. I'm here as the staff recommends council authorize the mayor to accept the work performed by Granite Construction for the 2024 street improvement project. Physical completion was achieved on February 5th in accordance with plans and specifications. The project was awarded to Granite Construction in the amount of $1,005,597, with a final cost being $904,307.52, which is a decrease. We saved some money for you, and of over $101,000. And really, this comes down to Dean, who's part of our public works team here, providing just some great project management for this, as well as a few of the requirements for the road resurfacing that we were able to get a better bid. So good on Dean and the public works group there for that. Staff recommends accepting the work performed by Granite for the 2024 street improvements project in the amount of $904,307.52, pending your questions.
Questions, council? Oh, grill him.
I'm going easy on him today. I'd like to say thank you to Dean for saving us money and move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mary and a second by Melissa. More discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips.
Chris, it's nice to have you back in the room.
Oh, yes.
Item E is the approval of a Citizen Advisory Committee resolution. Development Services Director Stacy Pratchner will introduce this item. Stacy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It is so great to have Chris back. This evening, the department would request that you review the list of potential members for a Citizen Advisory Committee to support development of the updated comp plan goals and policies. And those are policies that will be related to housing, land use, and transportation. This committee would be designed to be advisory to the Planning Commission. Citizen advisory committees in general, they're a helpful way to get a good spread of community members' perspectives and advice on critical issues, which is why we're looking to create one for the comp plan update. You'll see that the city has completed some recruitment, has some applications, and along with the mayor's input and support, we've provided a number of members for you to potentially choose from the committee. And as Councilmember Beaton described a little earlier in her report, we had a chance to review some of this at the last DS committee as well. The resolution does include some recommended guidance on the size of the committee. All the attachments that we've been working on, those are resolutions over the past couple months that include a draft schedule and work plan. And just a reminder to the city council, these are all folks that are volunteering their time to be on the committee. Just like the planning commission, these are folks with regular lives, just like all of you who volunteer to do this work for the city. That's not a small thing. We ask a lot of these volunteers when they get on these advisory committees, ask them to look at a lot of material, to reach out to their neighbors and friends, to get their information and to come share that with the group, sometimes to be in some uncomfortable public situations. So I'm grateful to the folks who said, yes, they'd be interested to be considered, and grateful for all volunteers. And I just want to go ahead and hand that over to the city council. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Questions from council? Otherwise, resolution 1070.
Well, I'll just start with, I know that we're asking for 10 to 12, but there are just 14 names. And I think it's a great turnout by our builders. And I would just recommend that, why eliminate 2? Why wouldn't we just take all 14?
Is that a motion?
Certainly, that's a motion.
Second.
Motion by Melissa, second by Andrew to expand the list to 14. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Thanks, Stacy.
Thank you so much.
Do you have to pass a resolution? Is that separate?
Yeah, do we need to pass that as a resolution?
Well, certainly we can do that.
So I think the motion was, I understood the motion to be an amended,
That's what I thought too.
yeah, for resolution
To bring-
1070. Are you good with that, Becky? Council, is that what you understood as well?
Mhm.
Okay.
Apologies that I ran away.
Oh, that was on me. All right, that is the end of our new business. Just wanted to put a plug in here and thank TV10. We had the flawless and seamless implementation of technology in our meeting. You didn't notice because nothing went wrong. Thank you, TV10, for all that you do there. With that, we will adjourn the City of Mount Vernon City Council meeting for Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025 at 7:51 p.m.